not to say that I just drop in on baseball during the playoffs, but I hear a lot about this Mike Trout guy being the best player in the game, and obviously it's Murphy. I mean, you know, anybody who knows the game knows that. So my question, did Murphy make a deal with the devil? Did he sacrifice a goat? What is this deal with all these home runs, and how good a player is he, or is he just playing out of his mind?
Yeah, it really has allowed us to make a very interesting, streamlined storyline. You got the GOAT for the Cubs, small G, and you got Murphy, who's now the GOAT, right, the greatest of all time.
Yeah, nice.
He's a very good player. I mean, look, he had the lowest strikeout ratio this year. He makes contact constantly. You know, from the moment he came up in 2008, I mean, he's really had the look of a professional hitter. And what's been interesting about him, if you watch him every day, is his adventures in the field. And really his adventures on the base path. I mean, he makes some of the most ridiculous decisions on the base path ever, to where David Wright, his teammate, once said, I think Murph thinks he's invisible. And it's funny because, probably the key play against the Dodgers in Game 5 was him making this ridiculous decision to go from second to third off a walk. And, of course, it was a brilliant decision because nobody was covering third base. It set up the tying run, and it really helped the Mets win the game, or it saved the game for later on so he could hit his inevitable daily home run, which he hit off of Greinke and won the game for them. It's really amazing to watch. He's a very good player who has had just an otherworldly postseason. And it's, I guess, people have tried to find comparisons like Gene Tennis or whatnot, but I don't know you can compare this to anything. Because he was, a one-time All-Star who now is playing, like you said, like Mike Trout, which is just something that I don't think anybody saw coming.
Yet, Mike, the Mets might not bring him back, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting life around the Mets, guys, because, I mean, for years, I mean, that's been the elephant in the room, is that the owners don't, have as much money as a New York ownership should have, because they were involved in the Bernie Madoff mess, and they're still kind of paying for those sins, and they haven't had the commitment to really kind of, have kind of a big market New York City payroll. There's two guys that the conversation, the moment the season ends, whether it ends in Game 7 of this series or it ends, after they win the World Series, is, will there be players who bring Cespedes back, which I think a lot of people are very highly dubious. And now Murphy, the guy who's, we have a lot of questions about. One thing, one shift in the organizational thinking is that for sure they're going to make him a qualifying offer, is the way it looks. And that was even a week ago. But, given the way he's performed in this postseason, the fact that he's performed professionally for them for 7 years, you do at least want to be able to get an asset out of it, whether it's a draft pick or not. But, they do have a kid, Dilson Herrera, second baseman, they like a lot. And I think their thought is that with the pitching they have, they can kind of do what they did this year, which is kind of, gauge themselves for 2 or 3 months and then make the moves they have to make on the fly next year. I don't happen to endorse that. I think that they caught lightning in a bottle this year because the Nationals allowed them to stay in the race for 4 months, and then they kind of, were able to make a move and be aggressive. The Nationals could just as easily start 45-20 next year, in which case the Mets are going to be in a lot of trouble. So, but for now, I think a lot of people who root for the Mets, are figuring they'll worry about Murphy and Cespedes when the time comes.
Hey, Mike, really appreciate your time. Are you active on Twitter?
Absolutely, Mike Vac, MikeVACC. So come on along. We like to have some fun.